Hey, we are here.
Hello,
We are
hello.
here. Do now. CJ had to.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Yeah. Anyway, my first impression listening to that whole conversation when I was in it, you kind of get drowned. My first impression was that we kept going around the mulberry tree, which is we go from epistemology to culture to language to ontology. And every time you'd ask a question in one of those fields, the other person would answer in a different field, and you tend to go around in circles. Like, how do you know that? That's kind of what the idealist always asks is, how do you know this? How do you know that? Well, at some point you got to put a pin in it and separate out those things, because, for instance, cats do not have culture or language that they have to deal with. But then when I asked him about that, then he went to, oh, well, they have some semiotics between them where they can, they read body language and stuff like that. Well, shit, now we just went from me trying to get rid of language to bringing it back in. So at what point can we actually connect with each other and agree on some damn thing?
Well, there's enough cognition there to know that with most animals, they spray and leave their scent everywhere, and it's pretty much understood.
Yeah,
that's my territory.
yeah. But then now the other thing CJ did with animals is go, oh, well, no, they use instinct. Well, what the hell is that? It's
what's going on in the mind that says stop, go no further,
yeah,
or you better be ready for a fight, right? There's two choices. You're either going to back off or you're going to try to take over another male or female species territory. That's about your two choices.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where to start unwinding all of that, but I know you, like, okay, for instance, now I think CJ claimed that time and space was cultural and that there could be a tribe that did not deal with time and space. Now, how would that work? So I'd say, okay, let's go to a squirrel. Can a squirrel do without a model of time and space? Because squirrels are where we got our model from, basically. Squirrels are where we got, primates, or now primitive mammals is where we got our ability to deal with time and space. And humans became very good at dealing with time. Squirrels are, to an extent. They will bury their nuts, and later on they will know where to go dig them up. And that's kind of how we model time and space with the brain. But if the brain is, something that we just perceive, it just seems like idealism is just ready-made to go around in circles, right? Whereas if you pick a physical model, if you assume a physical model, you can start to proceed from that point. Once you assume that there is time, space, and stuff in time, space, and by stuff, I do not mean literal stuff. I mean just stuff that, in the sense that we deal with stuff every day. You don't have to make any ontic claims about what is the bottom turtle of the atom, like, no, we're going to go down to quantum mechanics and we're going to go down to quantum field mechanics. And no, we don't have to do that. So where do we start? How do we start? I don't know. I know. You guys got any cool? Where you want to start? Oh, let's see here.
How do we start with ontology or
Yeah, I don't know.
epistemology?
Well,
Let's start.
Yeah, should we start with epistemology or should we start with ontology?
Yeah, well, ontology.
Is the
You know,
question.
ontology is. They keep getting at. Do you literally believe this stuff is there? Well, what does that mean exactly? Like, as human beings, we deal with stuff. We have the idea that stuff is made of other stuff. And then at some point we'll say, oh, well, the elements are the bottom stuff that we deal with. Like, humans don't go down to the quantum level very often, orbitals and all of that. You can deal with just elements, right? So we have like 100 elements of stuff that we deal with. And that stuff seems to stay in the same place when we leave the room and come back. Now, the idealists would say that, oh, no, it's not stuff, it's mental stuff. What is the difference? It seems like whether you call it physical or mental stuff, you've said the same thing. What good does calling it mental stuff do if the stuff is persistent? Well, objective idealism will say, oh, no, there is an objective mental thing, like some mental space that keeps track of where all the stuff is. And that's how they get around that. That's why stuff stays in the same place when you leave the room and come back. Okay, because the mental stuff is having a mental perception of that thing all of the time. So the cosmic mental stuff, or the objective mental stuff, the universal consciousness is keeping track of the universe for us. Well, how is that different from physicalism?
Well, isn't I know that in physicalism, things will fall to the ground at a rate of 32 feet per second
Yeah.
per second. In idealism, do things also fall at that rate?
Well,
What's the difference? I think that's what you're saying. Is
yeah,
that correct?
idealism doesn't believe in space-time. So what do they believe in? They say, well, we can't.
Well, they believe in it as space-time as a concept, but not as something literally in existence.
Well, yeah,
But now people have always believed in space, and mostly people have always believed in some form of time, but space-time as a dimension on a graph of 4 dimensions or more, different. That's something you can only conceptualize.
right. So then you get
Icarus
to
has a valid question,
who?
or he's got an idealist question. Although I don't know that Icarus is an idealist or a physicalist. I think he's a physicalist.
I think Icarus is a physicalist.
And I'm getting some water.
Everybody who has a wrench is a physicalist, right? I should have given CJ.
Everybody has a wrench.
I should have given CJ a wrench. Then I'd have at least one idealist with a wrench.
Well, I did write down here that CJ said a cup can disappear if you think it, or if the universal mind decides to.
Yeah, okay. So that means supernatural is possible. That's
right.
Okay. So that's one of the things I was trying to get to. What would you lose if you were a physicalist, right? So you'd lose, and I've heard them say this out loud in a couple of places. Even Kastrup is possible. Okay, so they believe,
but we don't see the cup disappearing ever. That's the problem.
Yeah, we never.
Damn it,
never
that cup.
Well, the cup is on the periodic table, Scott.
So also,
we added it to the periodic table.
Oh.
But yeah, the cup, it doesn't disappear even if it's possible that we could somebody could think it, or the universal mind could decide to do it, it never does it. So this goes back to my point again, where it doesn't seem to do anything, exist or not.
Watch this. I can turn it around, and it's a different Red Kitty quality of cup. Look at that. It changes. As I perceive it, it changes. So anyway, it's wonderful.
Then yeah, the question is still is it real or not? Is it physical or not? Or is it just a projection in our mind? And if it is, then how come things don't change and they're always the same for everybody? You're still stuck with the materialism and the physicalism or whatever, that it doesn't change. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't change form. You know, these things are constant. I don't see where any of these interjections by the universal mind ever occur.
Yeah, so I think, okay, these three things they would lose if they were physicalists. Yeah, supernatural wouldn't be possible. NDEs aren't real. And it is nothing it is like to be after you're dead. But idealism would allow for all three of those things. And I'm not sure if there are more. So I'll leave this open-ended here. But we got three things.
What is it like to be? What is it like? What's it like to be? What's it like to be?
Well, is idea an idealist
like?
actually picking something, or are they just open to something?
They're open to all that stuff.
Now, see, I can be open to anything. I can be open to a God existing, or magic beings, or anything else, but they don't seem to be part of our reality. So wherever they're existing at, again, it doesn't seem to make any difference. It's like, if Bigfoot exists, it must be on another planet, and it doesn't change anything if I can't ever see it or detect it or anything. What good is Bigfoot on another planet somewhere?
Right.
Well, remember when the Bigfoot came down and fought the $6 million man?
Oh yeah.
And then they became translators. So we kind of have that covered.
He was an alien robot in that one.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, but
whatever it is, if it's something, if it's Bigfoot, or a God, a universal mind, whatever it is, but you can't detect it, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't interact, all the things that claim that it can do, it doesn't do. So
yeah, and
for all intents and purposes, then exist or not makes really no difference. That's still where I'm at.
Yeah. And any personal stories about interactions with that said being can be accounted for in, medical, psychological, or even optical physics terms. Typically, I'm not saying we can account for all of them, obviously, because it's just not possible. But yeah. I understand the idea of the attitude of openness. Like, yeah, show me the evidence, and answer my questions to the contrary without telling me how, given over to the darkness I am or whatever.
That's the 99% argument.
Yeah.
Well, you can explain 99%, but there's 1% they can't explain, and that's where the healings and the supernaturals and the ghost stories, doesn't matter what it is, I can explain 99, but if I can't explain that 100th one, aha, and
this is almost a 19-cent word, representationalism. That's another thing. Okay, so my little diagram here, okay, there's me, and then me, okay, has stuff impinging on me. So stuff impinges right here, right? So I got me stuff impinging, and I can do two stuff. I can change stuff, right? And then there's stuff, doing stuff. And then there's stuff to do with stuff, ready to hand or whatever. But it's basically stuff impinging, right? So we got all this stuff, right? And then along with that, we've got this timeline thing where we got like moving me stuff. And then on top of all that, we're going to explain stuff. So now we get into epistemology where we start explaining stuff. But that's the model, okay? It isn't just that you're representing stuff in your mind, okay? You can interact with stuff and stuff can interact with you. So stuff pushes back. Some of the stuff you interact with is your own hands, your eyes, your eyeballs moving around, your head turning, your ears kind of perking up. Turning your head one way or the other. An amazing thing, when you do psychedelics and you have speakers, if you move your head just a little bit, the sound changes immensely, depending on where you are. And then we seem to factor that out all the time. But anyway, so moving your head just a little bit really changes the way sound works, the way from what you see. And then along with that, you can actually pick stuff up, move it around, all of that. So when you develop, like from a zygote, the way you acquire an epistemology about the world is by interacting with stuff. And we aren't the only damn animals that do that. Squirrels do it, mice do it. And in some sense, paramecium do it. They interact with stuff and sort of they build themselves by interacting in the universe and interacting with themselves.
And it's fascinating watching this stuff. I hurt myself microscoping, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
I hurt my shoulder from reaching over and adjusting while I'm watching the screen. People were laughing. I was joking. I was like, I hurt myself microscoping.
Yeah, you can hurt your eyes too after a while.
Yeah, you get lost into it. Even with it up on my big screen, it's mesmerizing just watching the stuff moving around.
Brian Stevens, I can't say, just stop and say hey ho and leave a like. Thank you.
I put for everybody who wants to check it out. I put up a video, my first video of my microscope stuff. It's not the best quality. I'm working on it, but I'm planning on doing more of the microscope world there and put some videos up so everybody can check.
I thought I had a 1 megapixel camera, and it turns out it's a 10 megapixel camera, and it still isn't sharp enough to show me what I can see with my eyes on the screen. So it just doesn't. I don't know what's going on. Maybe something is lost in USB translation. I don't know.
Is it 3.0? Because a lot of them said you're going to lose fine stuff if you don't have 3.0.
Really? I thought you would lose timing, but not actually lose stuff. Because it's 3.0.
Yeah. Well, in the videos, you're going to lose. You're not going to see a lot of like the cilia and stuff like that. You're not going to see the little fine things. But I did capture one on my 2.0 with the cilia all going at it. A great shot. It just kept moving so much it was going in and out of focus. But I had some great shots of the cilia and stuff. So I'm hoping with my 3.0 that I just got that it's going to be.
Whoops. What is Pragmatic Crystal showing us here? We got a link from your channel. Oh, Microcosm Corner. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's your video.
That's my new thing. I'm going to call it the Microcosm Corner. Little video clips. So. And what are you looking at? You're looking at spores and stuff, right?
Spores and contamination basically from around the room. I've got a bunch of stuff growing. I've got some really cool stuff. Hang on a second. I'll show you what I got.
Oh, buddy.
I got some really cool stuff here that I grew. Look at that.
Neat.
Ain't that awesome?
Yeah, just don't eat the bread that you found it on.
Yeah, and the neat thing about it is around that white part, there's another part that's fractal. That basically where it's doing something with the agar and it's drawing it in all these rivulets, and it's really beautiful when you put it under the right kind of light. But I could show it under the microscope. But yeah, I think this is like your standard mold. And what I do is I take these things and I throw them on the floor in various parts of the house and get all sorts of shit growing, and everything is like its own kind of thing. It's pretty neat.
I got some big cover slides.
Oh, big ones. Where'd
Got
you
some
get
big
those?
ones. I get everything on Amazon. Are you kidding me?
Do you have well slides, or do you just have flat slides?
I got some. I was going to ask you, have you ever used them? I was going to try that out too.
Yeah, well slides.
Some.
Yeah, the problem is that your microorganisms will be zipping by really fast.
Yeah.
And there are ways to slow them down, and you'd have to look at the techniques.
I got these big cover slides because it seems right when I'm getting some good viewing, it starts drying out.
Yep.
So I got the big cover slide here. I'm hoping, it'll take longer to dry out.
Yeah, you can get well slides on it.
And then I got some wells too. So
yep. Okay, we're straying off topic. I don't know where to go from here other than that. Like I say, I wish we could just stop conflating. Like, did you notice that when I asked about one thing, he'd say language or culture. So he'd go to language. So, different linguistic terms or ways of representing things like verbs or whatever. Then we'd go to culture. And then we would go to epistemology. How do you know something? And then we would go to ontology. Do you literally think things are out there, right? So ontology is like we're looking for the bottom turtle. And I don't think physicalism has to deal with the bottom turtle. So physicalism only has to deal with what I call, where the hell is it here? Model in the middle. So model in the middle is all you need. So basically I grew up, in a culture with language, but mostly I grew up with this, right? I grew up with this interaction before I even acquired language, before culture could be impinged on me through language or through the habits of my parents. I'm guessing that all animals eat, so there was no cultural aspect of that. But anyway, I grew up learning stuff by interacting with stuff, right? And then I developed an epistemic framework, right? And then later on, when I asked myself, what is that stuff? I would always cash it out in terms of what it's made of, right? So after I got older, I learned, so cups are made of clay and I can make a cup, right? So I got this clay stuff. Well, what is clay? Well, you look at it under the microscope and you find out it's this and it's that, right? And then so we would always cash out what is stuff. We'd never get down to what is stuff until we got into physics and started reading about quantum mechanics. And then we thought, oh my God, it's really stranger than we thought. But we don't have to worry about that. In navigating in the world and basically perceiving stuff and interacting with stuff, we just stop at the atomic level because there's another thing that's involved, and that's scale. At scale, basically, we are a certain size animal. If we were a paramecium, water would be a different kind of stuff to us, right? It would feel different and have different properties. We'd have different impressions of water because parameciums think water's a lot thicker than we do. So anyway, we perceive stuff at scale. And that's all you need to start with. Okay, now you have an epistemology. And that epistemology is not just something you pull out of your ass or you pull out of your culture. You develop it by eating, by interacting, by moving your limbs, by being the kind of organism you are. You could be entirely on your own, not even raised by wolves, just raised all by yourself in the forest, and you would still acquire a model of space and time. Can you see any way to disagree with that?
Nope.
I mean, you're in the woods, you make a camp, you go out and you pick berries and you fish. Okay, and you go down to the lake and fish. How could you live without a model of space and time in your mind?
What is Bigfoot thinking about while he's observing?
Right. What is Bigfoot thinking? What does Bigfoot
Now,
think?
is the question on the table modeling space, comma, and time? And I know not everybody puts a comma, before the and, but anyway. Or is it space hyphen time that he was talking about? I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, it kind of is for us, space hyphen time. We kind of think of those as two different things. We use the same brain region to model both.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what's significant to me is before I was an adult, I knew about, Einstein, and the theories of relativity, thanks to my dad explaining it to me.
Right.
But when he said space time, I thought space, comma, and time as separate things, and did not realize, and it was significant to me to learn that he was talking about space time on its own dimension together. And and I just wonder if for the idealist talking about space and time, if there's a difference to them.
Well, it seems like no matter what you say, they'll say, "Oh no, it's just all perception. It's all mental. It's all represented."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know what the consequences are of the difference under idealism, but it's just a detail that I'd want to find out.
A lot of people think physicalists and idealists alike that we have these little R things running around in our head, right? That our brain, inside of our brain, we have these little representums, right, where we represent something that we see out here, some object, right, some cube or whatever. We like this idea of representationalism, right? Like we represent it in our brain. And then there's a little homunculus here that sees it, right? And if you read Dan Dennett,
and are they theorizing that for all the apples we've ever seen, or just the very one apple that is in front of us and being seen right now?
yeah, it's kind of interesting because I think about that. Okay, Kastrup will say that physicalists believe that there are two things: the thing in itself and the representation inside your brain. That we have a representation of the thing itself. Well,
Aren't there three with the universal mind's perception?
Yeah, that's where it gets really confusing, because the universal mind has to see all aspects of that thing, right? From 360 degrees. No matter what you do with that thing, the universal mind is also perceiving it
through 8 billion perceptions
all at once, right?
Well, since we're a since the minds that can see it are, let me think, dissociated consciousnesses that are, is that global universal consciousness also seeing those things from the point of view of each of those disassociated minds? Which is another question for an idealist that is not here to answer.
Or a mind that's not working properly.
Well, it's not that it's not working properly. It's just our minds. We are, according to Castrop, not necessarily Schopenhauer. We are little incidences of minds with dissociative identity disorder, or with conditions similar, analogous to this dissociative identity disorder, off of, kind of sloughed off of the global consciousness, the universal mind that gives being to all things.
And that's where I get
Does that
confused when he talks
does that
about the split brain, that each half could have a different
yeah.
perception with the universal mind. It gets
And does the universal mind, does it see that perspective of all 7 to 9 billion of us simultaneously?
Okay, Zarevok, I wouldn't know how to invite Castrop. I think I commented on some of his videos. He never responded. And I don't know. We've been a little hard on Castrop. I'm pretty sure he'd rage quit within about 5 minutes. He couldn't quite handle it. But I'm not really interested in giving him another platform to preach on. I don't know. But it would be interesting. I figure CJ is a much easier person to talk to about all of this. And CJ does a pretty good job of representing Castrop's position. Castrop is
CJ was
irritating.
Was pleasant and everything, and
it's very pleasant. Yeah,
had a good talk.
Patient. Very patient. So anyway, okay. Yeah, you get pretty far down. Okay, the point is that Dennett, you've got to listen to what Dennett says. That as soon as you believe that there's a representation of the cube or the apple in your mind, you have already become a dualist, not a substance dualist, but a property dualist. So you're already thinking in a way that isn't possible for it to be. Okay, that is not physicalism. There can be no representation in your mind. When you look at something, there's an interaction going on, right? Back and forth. So it's sort of this process through time where you're pulling from concepts that you already have, little brain regions, right, that you already have for all of the different objects you've ever encountered, all of space-time, and you've got this interaction going back and forth, and that's how you perceive something. Okay, you don't represent it in your mind. It turns out there aren't enough neurons to represent shit in your mind. Okay, it can't work that way. So people have to just let go of that and quit thinking about this homunculus like I'm a me inside of my mind, and I'm viewing on my mind screen, I'm viewing what my eyes have brought to my mind and put together. No, that's a robotic way of looking at it. That's not quite how we perceive. We're more of a process going through time, right? So we're this huge process. So if you want to start thinking about mind, if you want to explain mind with physicalism, you have to lose this idea of representationalism. That's one big point I'd like. But it seems over and over again, inside of our minds, when we start thinking about it, we keep going back to that model of representationalism. Okay, and that is cultural and linguistic. That has the same problem. Like when they say it's all mental, and they're claiming that that's a raw feel, that's not from culture and language, they're definitely wrong about that. And that's where I really disagree with the idealists. They think they have this privileged access to what's inside their mind. And no matter what kind of language they use, it's the same across all cultures, right? That's bullshit.
And it's a problem with the meta level too, because these things don't change for things that are not on the same higher consciousness level. If you capture a fly under your cup, the fly is trapped under the cup. It has to accept the reality that it's trapped under the cup, unless you or something else moves the cup and releases it out of there. The fly is done for inside the cup. It can't deny it. So how does it get the metacognition to accept the reality of the cup if it doesn't have the metacognition or metaconsciousness that only we have in the first place? And it goes for every other species. It goes for plants too. I mean, if you put the cup over the plant and deny it light and everything, it's going to shrivel up and die. So everything has to accept the reality of the cup. So it can't just be a mental thing on a higher level. You know what I mean? It has to apply on a lower level. So I don't understand what the difference is of having the meta cognitive or consciousness level, because it still applies to the fly.
Yeah, the only way for them to make sense of it is to invoke the universal mind. And the universal mind, hang on a second. Coughing up hairballs. Got a cat in my face. Anyway, the universal mind has to have every impression, every perception all at once. And that is the part that I don't get. Like how it has all of these perceptions all at once in order to keep things in place where they are, when they are. But then they want to say, oh no, the universal mind could forget something and it could disappear, and then you'd have a supernatural event. So the universal mind is their fix-up, their patch to make science and everything else work, right? So they add this universal mind thing. But why think? I mean, you think you have privileged access to what's to your mind, you as an organism. Why would you apply that to the universe? Why would you believe that a distant star requires a mind to make it real, right? To make it anything at all? I don't get it. I think they're adding a lot and assuming a lot. I mean, for me to assume that a rock is a perception and nothing more requires that there is a mind out there that is always perceiving that thing. And I think that's adding something that is even worse than a God. I mean, that's even worse than imagining that there's a God running the universe, right?
Well, even a rock has to accept another rock. If it's, let's say there's a landslide and one rock butts up against another rock, it can't deny the reality that it's butt up against another rock and it isn't moving anywhere unless that other rock gets out of its way.
Yep. I don't know. So
that doesn't require any mind at all or anybody to be there. And that reality is the same for, it's the same for the antelope that steps on the rock and then frees it and gets the landslide going again. It doesn't matter. I'm not seeing what the meta level would change, because even the rock has to accept that reality.
So deconverted man, oh God, he's rewinding, so he isn't going to hear this. So what really happened is the universal mind forgot your computer for a moment. That's why it crashed.
See?
I don't know. Right?
As long as the magic smoke didn't escape, you're okay, DM.
Yeah, the magic computer smoke.
Yeah, that's an old technician's.
Yeah.
Ask the customer, did the magic smoke escape?
I used to be a computer tester.
Saved you a lot of time when you could just throw it in the trash when the magic smoke escaped.
I used to repair microcomputers back in the day when we still did that, back in the very early days of Apple and Microsoft and all that. And every time I would put a computer together again and get ready to turn it on when my boss was standing around, I'd always look at him and say, hope it don't smoke. And one time it did smoke, and the chip blew apart, and the top of the semiconductor chip actually embedded itself in the wall of the lab. It was, and my boss, It's smoke.
Everybody smokes something at one point or another.
Yeah. Oh my God. My bosses used to smoke dope constantly. Holy shit. The whole place reeked of pot.
We swore that that our one shop teacher's office always had a peculiar aroma.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I don't know. I'm burnt out. I don't want to.
Well, I'm still stuck on there. They're just trying to add something that doesn't add anything. You know what I'm saying?
It's
well, there's this thing out there, and what does this thing do? Well, this thing is undetectable, and on and on and on. But it's out there. It's like, okay, well, what does it do for me? Well,
according
not really,
to
because you're
Kastrup,
stuck like a brain in
my
vat.
recollection of his reading, we don't have any actual real sincere problems with idealism. We're just holding on to our physicalism because it's been culturally ingrained in us.
right.
And it's kind of soothing to our ego in a world where we perceive we need power in order to survive. So that's really what's keeping us from embracing idealism, is our ego and our culture.
I have a challenge for the idealist. Get rid of that culture. Get rid of all those stupid ideas and just completely and live for 3 days and try to wipe your butt without a space-time model and without, material. And just see how that works for you.
But Kastrup gets kind of, like we were talking, he's kind of thin-skinned when people say something about his ideas. But
Oh yeah.
He gives us kind of a snotty attitude that if you don't accept things just because that you're somehow closed-minded, or he likes to say, oh, you're just stuck on scientism. Yeah. But I'm open-minded. I don't think I'm closed-minded. I'm open-minded. People that know me, we talk about cryptids and ghosts, and I'm open to all these kind of things. But there's stories aplenty about many things, and it seems to me Kastrup's just telling another story about this thing that's there, but you just have to believe me that it's there. And if you don't, it's because you just don't understand me. And we've said before, that's kind of a religious argument as well. Well, you just haven't accepted Jesus because you haven't done the right thing to get the Holy Spirit to read the Bible the right way, to understand it the right way. So you just don't know what you're talking about. You just don't understand.
That is the thing that really hit me the more Kastrup I read. There are absolute parallels between the way he talks about this whole thing and the way creationists talk.
Like, you just don't understand.
You just follow the scientific paradigm, and it's been pushed down your throat, and that's why you believe in it. And otherwise, if you just let go of all that, and I maintain that all mammals behave according to naturalism, a physical natural model. And of course, then they'll jump in and say, oh no, we don't disagree with naturalism, and we don't disagree with science, and we believe in that model. That model works, but it's all mental. What the fuck?
That's it. Yeah. That's exactly what I heard Kastrup say. He basically ran down the list of, well, I accept, this and this and this, and of course this and whatever, naming things off, periodic table, Big Bang, evolution, just naming things off, whatever. Sure. These things are all science, but it's all mental. And then it's like, well,
what is it?
Idealism. I have no need for that hypothesis.
Well, it kind of seems to do away with, if you just think it, then you don't need all the experiments and research and everything else if you could just think it, right?
Yeah, but he says,
I thought it, so it's true. And it's like, but nobody's ever accepted that. There's always been, we might not accept somebody's evidence, but at least if you present evidence for whatever it is, your universal mind or your Jesus or whatever your religion is, and somebody accepts it, other people don't accept it.
Well,
But
Castro,
just to say, well, yeah, see, my friend over here accepted it because they understand and you just don't understand. And then you say, well, explain it to me. And they say, well, I can't explain it to you because you don't understand. And then you're stuck in that thing of, yeah, they can't explain it to you because you don't understand. Okay. So my, what is it? My heart is hardened, right? I just can't understand.
Yep.
And then that makes no sense why the universal mind or the God won't let me understand.
So Kastrup prides himself in using empirical evidence to prove his ontology, his metaphysics, right? Empirical evidence. One thing he does, he'll point to all these papers about dissociative personality disorder, and he'll say, see, you can have multiple personalities inside of your skull. Therefore, each of us is a multiple personality inside the universal mind. So he goes from this empirical evidence by pointing to a couple papers and never actually looking at the papers or talking about the nuances and the disagreement and the intricacies of dissociative personality disorder. And then he'll go from that to that proves my metaphysics. So that means it's possible. Well, dissociative personality disorder has fuck all to do with the universal mind or each individual human being. But he does this inference here, this if E, if E, then M, right? Then M. He does that inference and he just expects everybody to accept that, oh, he's used all the empirical evidence to prove his point. No, he fucking hasn't. He has not made a case for why the universal mind would have a property like a dissociative personality disorder. And then, there was what was that video, Scott, that we were looking at with that other philosopher? I think he calls it absolute philosophy.
Absolute philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a channel called Absolute Philosophy, and I'll try to link it in the description. And he goes through and he says, Kastrup, does all of this stuff where all of, the objects and science and everything is in the universal mind, and it's all mental. But then he will talk about how evolution created this consciousness, this metacognition. And so like he basically pulls the rug out from under physicalism and science and then puts the rug back in when he wants to point out something like dissociative personality disorder. And he does this all of the time. And it's nothing more than sleight of hand. I mean, he's just pulling a fast one on his audience. And maybe he's pulling a fast one on himself at the same time. He does the same thing with psychedelics. He represents psychedelic research based on one fucking paper, which a lot of people disagree with, and also based on the idea that if you have a more intense experience, then you have to have more, your brain has to be firing at a higher rate, which is nowhere in neuroscience will you find that idea. So, I mean, he pulls these things out and he says, oh, yeah, this is actual empirical evidence for my metaphysics. And it's like, first of all, there can be no empirical evidence for metaphysics. I'm sorry. Metaphysics is like in a land of its own. It's in a land of imagination where you just imagine how shit works. You make up a story and you say, this is a story about how shit works. That's what metaphysics is. And I don't think physicalism needs metaphysics. There's something called logical positivism. And everybody shits on that nowadays and says, oh, logical positivists, they're such idiots. One of their main themes was that metaphysics is bullshit. And I think they had something there. This reaching for the bottom turtle. So I don't know.
There's a place. Yeah, there's a place for what ifs and imagination and everything. But then, yeah, you have to then apply real empirical science, demonstrable things, testable things, because imagining going to Mars like Elon does and actually putting people on Mars are two different things.
Yeah.
You know, imagine, he just imagines that, oh, you just send a rocket there and set up a greenhouse and everything's good to go. But the reality is, no, that's just that's just not going to happen.
You're not going to
not
be
the
able to grow
reality.
potatoes on Mars.
There would have to be such huge changes done to the planet. Now, I'm not against going to Mars. Some people say, why even go? It's like, that's what we do. We climb mountains, that's what we do, right? So we will go there. But you have to deal with the reality again of, yeah, okay, there's a great imagination and this guy's got all the money, but he still can't do it,
I'm not sure how much volume we're talking, but I think they just found a big deposit of water somewhere on Mars' surface. I think Anton Petrov might have done a video on that. You know how the helicopter Curiosity or whatever, not Curiosity, whatever the helicopter thing name, it broke down.
Yeah,
it died finally.
And Petrov, he did a segment on that, but I think also on the same stream he was mentioning we found more water, and the more water we can find on Mars, the more the more feasible it may be to be able to sustain, a large, a significant group of people on that planet for at least, an intermediate amount of time. But yeah, much more would have to be done with that.
Anton was talking tardigrades too. He had the microscope out. I was like, oh.
So Tsunami, where else did you see dead on the table? Where else are they talking about this? I gotta look at the papers that Bernardo references on. What is it? What is the I? Dissociative
identity. Dissociative identity disorder.
I'm sorry. Mandible's got some videos too. So if you anybody out there is interested in these kind of things, you want to hear Mandible's perspective.
Yeah,
he's done several videos on Bernardo.
In fact, I think I don't know why I haven't done this before.
We don't mention
Mike, you should say thanks to everybody in the chat. I see the message. It was over 100 chats in the,
we had
in the comments. So thanks everybody.
Thank you guys for tuning in. But I'm about done for the day, boys.
So I'm still stuck with they can't explain if something is real or not, other than to say, well, if you imagine that it's not there, it might not be there. And it's like, but that's not demonstrable. That's never occurred. I keep hearing Tom Jump responding to that for some reason. It's like, no, the cup didn't go anywhere, The cup is real. The cup is real to the fly. What knocked over the cup has to have an explanation. And just saying that, well, the thing just disappeared, even though it never disappears. It's like it's kind of laughable to the does the refrigerator light stay on when you close the door? And you've got somebody, peeking and opening and closing the door. Does it really? There's a switch. There's a switch. It's explained.
So I posted a link to Mandible's channel because he is the person that does the most work on Castro, and also the link to that video on absolute philosophy in my stream. And Dave, you should copy that over. I got to put all those little hashtag things in there too.
But you put it in the description and I'll copy it over.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. Okay. I did. Okay. I saved it already. So we already did it.
I will do it.
Anyway, can we get out of here?
Time to get out of here. It's time for me to make bread.
Time for me to make something. Oh, I could go make soup.
I've had a sub thing lately, and I like to make the fresh bread and have a big sub.
I have an interesting problem. I've been eating about 800 calories a day, and I went for a walk yesterday, and I almost didn't make it up the hill. I almost passed out from lack of blood sugar. And not that hungry anymore. I don't know. It's interesting. But I'm not losing weight that rapidly. I lost 10 pounds like in a month, and now I'm like solidly at the same rate, and I'm not taking in a lot of calories. I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
I get busy doing
some studies
I don't eat.
Have said
silly. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Some studies have said that like living on 40% of your, maximum calorie recommendation,
Yeah,
is actually good for you to extend your life. So I don't know.
why do I feel like I'm dying?
I don't know. I just said some said. I didn't say everybody said or that they're correct.
So I was walking up a 150-foot hill yesterday, and I had my phone out. I was ready to dial 911 because I was starting to pass out. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
How's your abdomen? Is it healing up finally then?
I think it feels better, but it's still screwed up. And I have a dimple above my belly button now, which is really kind of cute. But dimples are cute.
You're gonna get all the chicks with that.
I'm gonna get all the chicks with that. Yeah.
My older son's got to get a little hernia taken care of in a couple of days.
That's what I'm wondering, if one of those stomach muscles that they cut through isn't quite healing the way it should, and I'm going to end up with that problem. But I don't know. Oh my God, a hernia surgery must be horrible too, right?
He's not happy about the whole situation. He knows better, and he shouldn't have been.
Yeah, my Auntie Viola died of a hernia. It actually killed her. That's pretty screwed up.
Because if it pinches off a significant amount of your bowels or whatever that might stick through it, then it could become
it's septic.
What's the word for rotting, dying flesh?
Necrotic.
Gangrenous or necrotic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So what is a visual understanding how alters parts are formed by trauma and did in OS? Okay, I'll link to that.
Yeah, so, I saw that, and you were talking about ending the stream, so I had to just get the raw link.
Okay.
So definitely, I'm going to watch that as soon as we're done here.
Me too. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put that in chat or in description. Okay. Copy. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Let's quit.
Again, CJ had a nice chat with Mike, and
I want to hand it to
CJ. Yep, that was a nice chat. Good job, both of you, on that.
Thick skin, really nice person, really easy to talk to. Going around in circles, and both of us, he had a lot of patience
and Mike was nice.
Was I nice too?
You didn't chew nobody's head off or anything.
Oh.
Didn't call any names or anything, You'd be civil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that feedback. Thank you. Because I really wanted to bite somebody's head off, but
oh yeah, don't bite heads off. There's just not going to get anything constructive out of that.
People might get the wrong impression when we're taking somebody's arguments apart or something, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not.
And I can be very direct and a little bit rude sometimes, and I regret that. But
yep.
But it's nice to have somebody like CJ willing to explain his thoughts, and you can tell that he has spent a lot of time on it.
And when somebody has the courage to come on a channel, where you're dealing with somebody that opposes your views vehemently, And I mean that just makes it. I am not going to go hard on a person that does that. I will go hard on a caster up who mostly shows up on channels that agree with him.
Yeah.
He did a debate. I found a debate today. Now I'm going to have to link it. Shit. But anyway, he did a debate with I think an anesthesiologist that was a physicalist. I just spotted that today. But that's one of the rare times a Castrop will actually sit on with somebody. And I'm just wondering if he rage quits at the end of it.
That's why you get, like with Grayson showing up at Dinoland, he's always saying, "Oh, come on down there," this and that. And how many people actually show up there?
Right.
Very, very few. Grayson did, though. He's like, "Okay, I'm here."
I wonder if he was wearing
you
one
gotta
of those,
give it to him.
I wonder if he was wearing one of those Apple tracker things. The ones
I was wondering if he would
give out your GPS.
Yeah, if he didn't leave a letter somewhere saying, "Look, I'm letting everybody know that I'm going to Alabama."
So we want to make CJ our official.
Sentence, I never want to tell anybody that sentence. I'm going to Alabama.
No, we never want to go there. We want to make CJ our official friend of the channel idealist. Our official idealist of the channel. That's
all right.
I word it, and I'm going to give him a wrench when he comes back. So
CJ was pleasant in the chat too. We were back and forth a little bit there, and so were some other people. So CJ's always welcome. And CJ said they may have some Bigfoot stories. So who knows? CJ may surface on another channel sometime. So we'll see.
Oh my God, 2 Castrop video. I keep looking at Castrop's face, and I'm sorry, but
he just had another one a couple days ago.
Yeah.
He does. And he does like 2, 3, 4 hour streams all the time. It's like he's supposed to be writing his book.
Yeah. Here we go. This is the video where he debates. Let's see. Where's he debating the guy? Let me see if I can show. Okay, there's the other guy, and they're having a debate. So I've got to link that. This came up, and this is from. Oh God, that's 3 years ago. Shit. He
just had one a couple days ago.
What's that?
Is that one?
No, that's not.
That's
not the one. No.
Okay.
That's a new one. You know what's weird? If I fall asleep with YouTube on my TV, it automatically goes to the next video, right? And if I sleep long enough, I will wake up and it's doing nothing but playing Sean Carroll videos. So it goes from what I'm watching, and then it makes a recommendation for the next thing. If I'm watching some weird ass crime thing, about hikers disappearing in the Northwest, it'll give me another one of those, and then another, and then it will go down to something else and something else. It will always end up at Sean Carroll videos. Always.
Well, I've been speaking of, mine goes right to Martin Isles because
really?
I've been binging, and just so
Martin
you know, Mike, I know this is going to break your heart.
What?
The new trajectory for Answers in Genesis is not going to be focused on creationism.
What's it going to be focused on?
They are going to focus on social issues.
Oh,
you know what that means.
Transgender. And
they both, Ken Ham and Martin Isles were talking on a radio show, and in another interview, I watched a couple of them, and they basically said they have all their videos and information and books and magazines and everything about the creationist stuff. So it's kind of been done to death.
Done to death. Yeah. Okay.
And Ken Ham is so concerned about the social issues, especially, these gender things, and how they're subtle how they say it, but you know what they're talking about.
Yep.
And the perfect guy to lead us in this is Martin Iles, and that's why we're bringing him in. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, because he don't like gay folks or trans folks or most any folks, and so he's perfect. So and just so you know, they let it slip. They spend $150 million on a budget going after people.
Really?
Their homeschooling stuff is huge. They're putting out lots of that stuff, and they're going to. He's going to try, and Martin's going to try and go after the young people too, with bringing in all kind of new digital stuff. So that's supposed to come in the fall. So there you go. I'm sorry to break it to you, but they're not going to do the yabba dabba do as much anymore. I mean, Jeanson and everybody will still, but the bigger ups and what Martin's going to target is LGBTQ, abortion, and getting their stuff into schools.
Those guys have more trans people running around inside of their little minds than actually exist.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's just way out of proportion. It's like
it's a satanic panic, and I don't mean to make light of people comparing them to all the other satanic panics, but they have to have something, or if it's music or Dungeons and Dragons or Ouija boards, or and they'll pick on somebody like Ozzy Osbourne, who's a Christian, and it's like this guy's a believer, Yep. So, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Somebody could just, Ozzy, Ozzy. It's all Ozzy's fault. Remember when everybody was suing Ozzy? Everything that was happening was Ozzy's fault. So
he bit the head off a bat, but I mean, who hasn't taken a broom and killed a bat?
It was a bird.
Was it a bird? Oh, okay. Oh no.
Yeah, Sharon had the brilliant idea to release doves when they signed a contract or something, like they do at the Olympics or something. And Ozzy, being a high-on, reached over, grabbed one, and bit its head off.
Didn't Marilyn Manson eat a bat on stage? I think he ate a bat.
Did you see Ozzy on Howard Stern talking about how many it took him like 90 tries to get his driver's license, and all the stories of he would be so nervous about taking the test he would get all high, and Ozzy gets high on serious drugs, right?
Alice
and he said the one time he woke up in the car with a note from the from the guy, the deputy, to give him the test, whatever, that said, you failed, and please don't try to get a driver's license. He just fell asleep, stoned, with the driver test guy in the vehicle. And,
God, I can imagine being in the passengers with Ozzy trying to get his license.
You want a good story? Yeah, look up Ozzy on Howard Stern with getting his driver's license. And the thing is, though, Ozzy finally did get his driver's license.
They actually let that man drive?
They finally gave him. Of course, now he's in, he had that surgery and he's in bad shape now. So,
oh, really? What happened to him?
They said he had to have neck surgery. So he got the surgery, and now he's messed up. He can't walk right. He's on a cane, and he was just cussing out the doctors. Fucked me all up getting his neck surgery. So
Well, I agree with you, Tsunami. Homeschooling should be outlawed for various reasons.
He's hobbling around on a cane, so he's not very happy. But look out. Again, AIG has a huge budget. Martin said they have 1,500 full-time employees or something. The way he said it, staff or something, but it's actually Can-Am has 600 people on staff. But he's going into media, and he's opening a K through 12 school in his new building, and it's a bigger building instead of in this church basement where he did have his little school going. This is a bigger building. He's getting an expanded school. He's expanding, reaching kids with all his materials, and that's what this Martin guy is going to do. And they are working. They said it straight up, and they're praising what they're doing in West Virginia, trying to get ID in schools, and that's another one of their targets. So
we want to.
It's not just the yabba dabba do nonsense. They're trying to get ID into schools. Ken Ham's version of ID into schools, along with the right way to be, and that goes for you LGBTQ folks and everything else. You're not being the right way to be. They're targeting that, and they're going to tell kids their opinion, and it's just So.
Oh my God, my cats did not. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's something else. Okay, oh shit. Somehow my cats are not here. Oh no.
Did you not click a button again?
I didn't click a button. Well, I must have closed the window, so I screwed up. I'll have to capture my chats. Anyway, I want to get
this new stuff's coming out in the fall, so we'll have to see what their nonsense is coming out. And I have a feeling that it's going to be looking through Martin's stuff, about every 3-4 videos has got some kind of rainbow flag or transgender flag or something in the back.
And Ham and Martin lies. They aren't even fucking Americans. They come over here and fuck our country up. Go back.
And they're opening a bigger Answers in Genesis in Australia. It was just a shipping container that his brother sold books out of or whatever.
Yeah.
They're opening an office with a 5-person staff.
Do you know what we got to do? We got to build a wall between us and Australia. We need a wall.
In New Zealand that sent Ray Comfort too.
Yeah, that one too. Yeah, we need a wall.
Mark Reed apologized, but said that they're not taking Ken Ham back.
Oh no, they don't want him back. I guess they ain't gonna like what ain't gonna want Martin back either. So
yeah. Well, he's got issues too when he was doing all that lawyer stuff, and they didn't even like him there, and he had issues with the goofy lawyer place he was working at. So he's not. I don't think he's a very likable guy. He puts up a good front, but I think he's a real jerk when the cameras aren't running.
Okay, guys, we got to quit. All
right, guys.
Okay.
In chat, good seeing everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. And goodbye, cruel world.